Welcome to the Veroscope analysis of Chris Albert, part 3 in the Karen Reid trial. If you're new to the trial, the trial is over the murder of John O'Keefe, who was a Boston cop, and he was found murdered or killed on the lawn of this guy, Brian Albert, who is, or was rather, also a Boston cop. This is Karen Reid. If you are unaware of the people involved, this is Chris Albert, who we'll be watching today on the witness stand being cross-examined, and also his son, Colin Albert, who we've already analysed his cross-examination on the Veroscope channel if you want to go and find that video. What's interesting is the relationships of the parties. So here we have a quick graph to explain who's who. Brian Albert, who was also a Boston cop, is married to Nicole Albert, and her sister is Jennifer McCabe, who was present in the house where the murder or killing occurred, which is 34 Fairview. She's married to Matt McCabe. We'll be looking at their cross-examinations as well. Jennifer McCabe's 911 call is also on the Veroscope channel, and we've analysed that. Then we have the children of Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, Caitlin and Brian Albert Jr. We've yet to see their cross-examinations. And then here we have Chris Albert, who we'll be looking at today in part 3, who's married to Julie Albert, and Colin Albert, who was also present at 34 Fairview. Colin Albert and Chris Albert both say that Colin Albert had left this property, 34 Fairview, before John O'Keefe arrived. So in their view, it would be impossible for Colin to be involved in any way at all with the killing of Officer John O'Keefe because he wasn't there. And here we have a statement, I believe, from some of the witnesses, and it says, "Today, our hearts are with John and the entire O'Keefe family," and which they are. However, they then go on to say, "They have suffered through so much and deserved better from our justice system." Karen Reid was found not guilty in the first trial of murder, but the jury couldn't decide on the other charges, which were manslaughter due to operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol. And so the judge ordered a retrial of both the murder charge and other charges. So some people in the media have indicated the double jeopardy dichotomy there, but that's what the judge did. So it goes on to say, he deserved better. John deserved better from our justice system. While we may have more to say in the future, today we mourn with John's family, and John's family are suing Karen Reid now in a civil case. And in fact, Karen Reid is now suing quite a few of the witnesses and police forces that were involved in the investigation. And the statement goes on to say, "and lament the cruel reality that this prosecution was infected by lies and conspiracy theories spread by Karen Reid, her defense team, and some in the media. The result is a devastating miscarriage of justice." So the witnesses who, can we read who that is? It looks like this is a statement from, of course, it's the internet, so we don't know if it's true. A statement from Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Colin Albert, Julie Albert, sorry, Chris Albert, was that? Yeah, Colin Albert, Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Kerry Roberts, and somebody else. If somebody else can read that, that will be interesting. Okay, so that was their view at the end of the trial. This is the trial. We'll be looking at this, the last bit, the part 1 and 2 we've already done. So if you haven't seen those, please go back. And also as a thank you to the trial channel, which if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It's an excellent channel, my favorite one for trials, because it's well edited and you get uninterrupted trial footage, which is what I prefer. However, if you like analysis, then please do subscribe to the Berescope channel, where we analyze the statements, and we'll be going through the last part, part 3 today, of the cross-examination of Chris Albert. Okay, so let's press play and see what he has to say.
Colin Albert was 17 years old?
Correct. Part of the year.
So his son, Colin, was 18 at the time of the killing in the house. And what Yannetti is trying to establish, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, is the timeline. It's claimed that Colin left the property before John O'Keefe arrived, the policeman that was found dead on the lawn. And so Yannetti is trying to establish, was there time for him to drive back? And this guy, Chris, claims that he went to sleep and then his 18-year-old son, who had been drinking, came home at about 12:35-ish, I believe, after midnight, and woke him up to say goodnight, which for an 18-year-old who has been drinking, I've read in the comments that obviously that can be reasonably common, in particular for young women or girls, coming home, are you safe? Perhaps less so for young men. But either way, it's claimed that he got in at 12:35-ish after drinking, knocked on his dad's door and said, "Hi, Dad, I'm home, I guess. Good night." So whether you believe that or not, I don't know. If you don't believe it, then why? I do believe he knocked on the door, by the way. But why is the question? Why would you knock on your father's door after coming home from a party to say goodnight? Well, some people believe that there was an incident at 34 Fairview, and if Colin hadn't left, perhaps he saw something.
And you knew that, like most teenagers, Colin drank alcohol with his buddies, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain for the jury who or what is Nebercracker?
What is Nebercracker?
Yes.
Like the character?
Okay, so here we have question the question. We know in forensic linguistics that's often buying cognitive time to think, so we put in a deceptive flag.
That's what I'm asking.
It's a character in a...
And there we saw the constant nervousness which he's been exhibiting since the questions from Yannetti started hotting up.
cartoon called Monster House.
And would you agree with me that Nebercracker in the movie Monster House was this kind of old curmudgeon who didn't want anybody on his lawn, correct?
The character, yes.
He was the get off my lawn guy, correct?
In the movie, yeah.
What was your nickname and your wife Julie's nickname for John O'Keefe?
Mr. Nebercracker.
All right. And your wife Julie actually had John O'Keefe plugged into his contacts as Nebercracker, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were there one time when Julie showed Keren Reed, her phone to show how John O'Keefe was plugged in as Nebercracker, correct?
I believe so.
And this whole nickname started because of a conflict that Colin Albert had with John O'Keefe. Correct?
Not correct.
John O'Keefe complained to you about things that Colin was doing.
Not correct.
He would tell you that Colin used to throw beer cans or beer bottles in his bushes, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, you can answer that. What's your answer to that?
That is not correct.
John O'Keefe told you that Colin used to flip him off, correct?
Not correct.
And say F you to him.
Never.
Colin used to cut through his...
Okay, so never is a word we always look out for. It's normally deceptive unless the question included the word ever. So did you ever do this? Never isn't necessarily deceptive. In fact, it's the correct answer. But when somebody, and this is through analyzing thousands of statements, criminal statements, as well as corporate statements and candidate interview type of statements, thousands and in fact tens of thousands of them have been analyzed by various agencies. The word ever, the vast majority of the time, and mathematically a percentage which is off the scale high. I can't give you the exact percentage, but in my experience too, ever is almost always deceptive. And certainly from the research that confirms that finding.
yard.
Nope, that was Dylan.
You knew that John didn't like people cutting through his yard, correct?
No, I don't know that to be true.
Okay. So is it your testimony that John O'Keefe invited kids to cut through his lawn all the time?
I don't understand. Is that a question?
It was a question. I guess let me withdraw that and ask this. If John O'Keefe is never cracked, and he's the get off your lawn guy, are you denying that he doesn't like people cutting through his lawn?
Do you want me to, can I explain?
I just asked for an answer to my question. Mr. Lally will get up after I'm done, and I'm sure you can explain whatever you want.
So no, he's not no.
All right. Well, you would agree with me that there was a time when John O'Keefe was not home that...
So here we have the witness at first deny that he knows that, and then challenged, accepts that obviously it's no. So deception is indicated, and in go multiple flags in those few sentences.
You and your wife Julie went to his house.
That is correct.
And you entered onto his property, correct?
On his front property, yes.
And you had drinks in your hand.
Correct.
And you thought it would be funny to have a photo taken of you and your wife with drinks in your hand on his property, correct?
Correct.
And you knew it would be funny because you knew it would annoy him, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh, you can go ahead. Can you answer that?
Yeah, he was actually asking us to watch his house while he was away.
Right, but that doesn't answer my question, which was he didn't ask you to go onto his property with...
Avoiding the question and answering a different question is a strategy that politicians use a lot, but so do witnesses if they want to be slightly deceptive, either consciously or unconsciously. And sometimes they will even rephrase the question and then answer that new question instead of answering the original question. So it's a tactic. And because of that, in go the deceptive flags.
Drinks in your hand and take a photo, correct?
He asked us to watch his property.
Okay, but again, in answer to my question, the answer is no, he did not ask us to go on his property and take pictures of ourselves with drinks in our hand, correct?
Yeah, he didn't ask me to send him a photo.
All right. And
so again, still evasive, still obstructive, still refusing to answer the original question. This is a witness in a murder trial. There's no need for him to exhibit this sort of pantomime behavior. Or is there? He's defensive. It's like getting blood out of a stone at times. His hedging is continuous. His attempts to buy timeline minutes is continuous. And so therefore we have to ask the question, why? Why are we seeing this pattern amongst the witnesses?
you would agree with me that Nevercracker wouldn't like a photo of somebody on his lawn with drinks in their hands, correct?
The cartoon character, Nevercracker?
Yes.
Okay, so there we saw cognitive overload and the fractured structure of the sentence. So in go the deceptive flags.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Next question, please,
Yes.
Mr. Yannetti.
May I approach?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, I place 2 photographs before you. If you could take a look at those and tell the jury if you recognize what they depict.
I do.
What do those photos depict?
It's me and my wife straddling John's fence. We're giving a thumbs up in one of them and a smile in another one.
Okay. And you say John's fence, so that's actually on John's property, correct?
Part of it is, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the easement is from the street to the fence as ownership goes, but yeah.
All right.
I know the town owns a certain portion of it.
Would you agree with me that that photo was taken in April of...
Okay, so here we have unnecessary language, and in forensic linguistics and statement analysis, where we see unnecessary language, in this case about the town and the easement, which has other psychological implications that we don't have time to go into now, but where we see excess language and unnecessary language, it's a deceptive indicator, and in go the flags. If you've seen parts 1 and 2, you'll have heard me say that individual flags mean nothing per se. So we look for clusters and superclusters before we start to determine if overall the statement appears to be deceptive or truthful. And if a statement does appear deceptive, it doesn't mean that the person is guilty. There are plenty of reasons for a statement to be deceptive other than guilt.
2021?
I'm not sure when it was taken, but if that's what you have for a date, then it's fine.
Okay. Who took that picture?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Where was your son Colin that night when you had that picture taken?
I have no idea.
Would you agree with me that you texted those photos, or somebody texted those photos, whether it was you or your wife Julie, to John O'Keefe?
Absolutely.
And offer those a fair and accurate representation of the photos that you...
His hands are becoming extremely active through nervousness. Sometimes he puts his hand up to his mouth, an example of which is when he was caught in a deception about the timeline, with the video evidence showing clearly that his own timeline was incorrect, and his hand unconsciously went up to his mouth, which he then started to disguise as a look of, the hand resting on the chin in pensive inquisitiveness, all rapidly achieved by the unconscious, and then his realization and the switch to a different look. And here we have other examples of the hands often sweeping his collar, touching his ear, his nose, and we would see these as a deceptive indicator, and in would go the flags. This is apart from the linguistics.
Yeah.
All right. I would offer those, Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
With regard to that first photo, is that, well, first of all, whose house is that in the background?
That's John's.
And that is you on the right and your wife Julie on the left?
Correct.
We have the second photo, please. Okay. That is also John's house in the background there?
Correct.
And again, that's you on the right and Julie on the left, correct?
Correct.
Okay, we can take that photo down. Now, would you agree with me that those photos give some context to the text that you sent him on January 28th when you were trying to get him to come out and you threatened to, quote, fuck up his lawn if he didn't come out that night?
What do you mean give context to?
Well, in other words, here you are texting him photos of you and your wife on his lawn, correct?
Yes.
And that's a common theme that explains the January 28th text where you were threatening to fuck up his lawn, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I just have one more area that I want to cover with you, sir. You previously confirmed that when you walked in your door on January 29th of 2022 after coming home from the waterfall, your son Colin was not home, correct?
That's correct.
At that time, you had no personal knowledge of where he had been that night, correct?
That's correct.
Since that time, you know that he was at your brother Brian's house that night, Brian Albert.
That's correct.
Your old home, correct?
Where I grew up, yep.
And you knew that address to be 34 Fairview Road.
Correct.
And you knew that that was the same house outside which John O'Keefe was found dead later that morning, correct?
Correct.
I may have a moment.
Sure.
Just one other question, sir. When you spoke to Trooper Proctor on February 10th of 2022, you would agree with me that you never mentioned that Colin Albert was at your brother Brian's house that night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh,
I don't remember.
all right. Thank you. Brief redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Albert, you were asked some questions about being a selectman. Were you a selectman at the time on January 28, 2022?
No.
About how long after that was it that you became?
Sometime in April that the election was over. April, second week in April, maybe?
So that photograph that you were shown with respect to yourself and the former Chief Berkowitz of the Canton Police, when was that?
It was a fundraiser, so it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks before the election. So
he is very tight with law enforcement, and he's known the murder investigator in this case for a very long time. There's photographs of the family and his son at the same wedding with the investigator. He's very defensive about admitting all of this. He tries to minimize it all. I'm not entirely sure what his position politically is, or what power that holds. Do they have the power to vote in the chief of police, for instance? And so is the chief of police giving him money to support his election? I believe the chief of police has passed away, but so if anybody knows, please put in the comments, what is the power of his political position? And to what degree is he able to vote in other people into positions of power? But either way, he's very sensitive about admitting this, and so what he does is he minimizes. Let's have a look at the actual examination and go into some detail. So Yannetti says to him, when you spoke to Trooper Proctor on February the 10th, 2022, you would agree with me that you never mentioned that Colin Albert was at your brother's house that night, correct? I don't remember. There was a time when John O'Keefe was not home that you and your wife Julie went to his house. That is correct. You entered onto his property, correct? So sometimes he can't minimize because it's just true. Was there conflict with Colin? Throwing beer cans in the bushes, flipping him off, saying F you, never. Colin at the crime scene. Since that time, you know that was at your brother's Brian's house. Okay. That brings us to the end of this analysis, and we'll have a conclusion to the case when we've analysed all of the witnesses.